That worked. Um, okay, I'll go ahead and I will share my screen, make sure everybody can see. Can you all see the above beyond PowerPoint that's here? Yes, okay, perfect. Okay, awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and I'll make this bigger and we can get started. My name is Cassie Rodriguez and I manage the North Houston area territory for Baylor University admissions. I did graduate from Baylor in May 2018. I got my bachelor's in journalism with a concentration in public relations. So I'm really excited to be able to work in the Houston area. I actually did grow up in Houston. So I'm really happy that I'm getting to recruit kind of in my hometowns. So a little bit about Baylor, just in our background information. We are, of course, located in Waco, Texas. So from here, that's about a 2.5-hour drive, just depending on which part of the city you're driving from. So one of the reasons that I chose Baylor is because I thought it was the perfect distance. You're not super far away, but you're also not right around the corner. So it's still a road trip, but it's a trip you can make there and back in a day. We're also the oldest continuously operating university in the state of Texas. We were actually founded in 1845 whenever Texas was still its own country. So we're definitely pretty old. We have a lot of history and a lot of longstanding traditions that comes with our age. So for me specifically, my favorite tradition that we have has to be the Baylor line. And the reason that this is my favorite tradition is because it's normally the first tradition that all of our students get to actively participate in during their freshman year. So basically what happens is all of our new students, both freshmen and transfers, get to put on their gold line jerseys and run across the field at our home football games and start off the games. And it's just really, really exciting to see. It's even more exciting to be part of. And not only do you get to sit in the first 13 rows of the stadium once you're done, whenever students get their gold jerseys, it's just a really cool sentiment because it's like the university's way of saying you're part of our team now. So you get a jersey too, just like every single student that's ever started at Baylor. So it's just a really cool thought to think about being included into that legacy of becoming a Baylor student. Baylor is also a private Christian university. We always have and always will be. It's a very integral part to our identity and our foundation and our mission, which is to provide a caring community for all of our students. We do have a very diverse population. We have all sorts of different races and religions, home countries represented, and we have a very high population of out-of-state and international students. I believe it's about 40%, and that does continue to increase year by year, which brings a larger worldview to campus, which we're very proud of as well. In terms of our academics, Baylor has over 140 majors and minors that you can choose from. We also have a good amount of pre-professional choose from as well. So these pre-professional tracks include things like pre-med and pre-law, as well as several others that you can choose from to add on to any major of your choice, which really does help you with customizing your own academic experience. So whatever your professional goals are, you can definitely make that happen and sort of coordinate that within your degree plan. And then our average class size is a 26, while our student faculty ratio is 14:1. Usually what happens with students is that as you progress within your major, your classes do tend to get smaller and smaller. For me personally, my smallest class that I ever had at Baylor was 8 students, and that was during my junior year. And it was lots of fun. I got to know my professors super well. She and I are actually still friends to this day, and she actually helped me with starting on my first research project that year. So Baylor is a top tier research university. We do want to make sure that all students that are interested in research have the opportunity to do that as early as their freshman year. And it is fairly easy to get involved with research. I for one, wasn't even trying to get involved in research, and I ended up doing a project. But it's just really great to have the faculty members there and sort of as mentors for anybody that is interested in research. So I'll highlight some of my favorite buildings that we have on campus. This is the Baylor Sciences Building. It's also known as the BSB, and this is where all of our science classrooms and labs are located. This is where you'll see several areas where you can study. There's rows of computers and printers. There's also a Starbucks and a Witch inside, so it has pretty much anything a student might need if you're going to be studying for long periods of time or if you're just getting ready for a class to start. And then this is our business school. It was recently rebuilt in 2016, so it's basically brand new. And one of the benefits of studying business at Baylor is that you do have access to the private study rooms. You can reserve them for any period of time, and they do come equipped with flat screen TVs and HDMI cords where you can hook up your laptop, and it's really, really perfect for practicing group presentations and group projects, which you do get quite a few of in the business school. And then all of our students at Baylor do have access to our Success Center, and this is where you can get help with things like study strategies or study skills. If you have a test coming up and you need help with dividing up your chapters, they also offer tutoring, so you can do that on an individual basis, or you can also enroll in group tutoring, and that's a really good resource as well. They also have our Career Services office, and Career Services is where students can go for help with things like building their resume or doing a mock interview. And they also coordinate all of our career fairs throughout the year, as well as our online job and internship database that we have called Handshake. So if anybody is familiar with LinkedIn, it's basically an online hiring website where you can make an account and make professional connections. That's exactly what Handshake is. So Baylor students are able to log in with their Baylor credentials and look through thousands of different postings for jobs and for internships as well. So to put these numbers into perspective, Baylor has approximately 14,000 undergraduate students from freshmen through seniors. So there's definitely more than enough to go around. And then those bars there at the bottom do represent our success rate with sending students off to medical school and law school. So for the national average for first-time acceptance to medical school is about 35% of students, whereas at Baylor, about 71% of our pre-med students are admitted into med school on their first try. And then for our pre-law students, it's about 87% that are accepted on their first try. So we definitely try to make sure that students are not just prepared, but that they're competitive applicants for whatever their next step is past Baylor, whether that is starting off in professional school or graduate school, or if that's starting off in your career. So speaking of next steps past Baylor, the Alumni Network is definitely worth mentioning because we do have a large percentage of our alumni that live and work in the Houston area, so roughly 14%. And we definitely see that here from an admission standpoint. Anytime we have events in the city, we always have alumni that are willing to come out and help and talk to our prospective students and also offer some of their own insight and talk about what they're up to now. So we're definitely very proud and very thankful of the strong Baylor presence that we have here in Houston. So I always say Baylor has a little bit of the best of both worlds because we have a lot of what you would find at a smaller private university while also offering the things you would typically get at a larger public university. So for example, we do have hundreds of student organizations that you can choose from, and this is everything from Greek life to intramural sports, academic societies, volunteer organizations, faith-based organizations, and everything in between. And as we all know, student organizations can really help you with finding your home within your home as you sort of navigate the college experience. We also do have a marina on campus. Some of our student organizations will throw events here throughout the year. Just like Houston, Waco is warm pretty much year-round, so this is always a fun option to do with your friends, to go kayaking or do sand volleyball. It is on campus and it is open to all students, so it's just a fun option that you do have, as is attending our sporting event. All of our Baylor athletics are Division I, Big 12 sports. We're definitely proud of that. Plus, all of our students get included admission into all of our home games, including, of course, football. So football is played out of McLean Stadium. And McLean is actually really interesting because it's actually one of a handful of waterfront stadiums in the U.S. So it's right off of the Brazos River. Before games, you'll usually see people sailgating. So people will get in their sailboats and blast music and get everybody really excited before the game. And it's a really cool sight to see. We're also right off of the I-35 highway. So anybody that drives through Waco knows that they're driving past Baylor whenever they see McLean Stadium. So in its own way, it's become kind of an emblem of the university. So to switch gears, we'll talk more in depth about the application process. We'll talk about materials, dates, deadlines, and then we'll go into a little bit about financial aid. And then of course at the end, we'll come back together for any questions that you guys might have. So Baylor's application is open. It opened on August 1st, and we do offer a free application. So I always say, even if you're 10% interested in Baylor, go ahead and submit an application. application just so that you can give yourself more options. So you can apply to Baylor for free using one of three methods. You can either apply straight through our website, using the Common App, or using Apply Texas. So it's really just up to you. We really don't have a preference. It's just whichever one is more convenient for you specifically. But no matter how you apply to Baylor, you will have to create what is called a Go Baylor account. So Go Baylor is extremely important because this is where you're going to keep track of all of your application information. So this is going to show your status. This is going to show the things that we've received from you, things we're still waiting on. And this is also going to show super important messages, including your decision whenever that time does come. So it's really good practice that once you've submitted your application for Baylor, that you've created your Go Baylor account and that you are checking it at least a couple of times a week so you can make sure that you're not missing anything important. So other than the application itself, there are two items we're also going to need. The first of which is your high school transcript. And this has to include your 9th through 11th grades as well as your GPA, class rank, and size. So the transcripts can be submitted either officially or unofficially. Officially would mean coming straight from your high school or your counselor, either using Naviance or as a hard copy in the mail. Unofficially would mean that you can actually upload it yourself through your Go Baylor account, or you can send it in to us by email. So both ways will be just fine. And then in terms of the essay, you can actually use one of your Apply Texas or Common App essays to fulfill the requirement, and we will receive that whenever you submit those applications. Or you also do have the option to submit your essay separately through that Go Baylor account. And we do have very flexible prompts with the essay. You can actually also choose to create a prompt of your own. So if you have an essay that you've written, you really want to use that, that's totally fine. You can just submit it through Go Baylor and that'll mark off that requirement. One of the biggest changes between this upcoming year and this past year is that we are going to have a test optional application. So when students apply to Baylor, you can choose whether or not you would like to include a test score. So we know a lot of exams have been canceled in the past. We're not sure what to expect from the future. So even if you don't have a test score, you're still going to be able to apply. So for that or I guess not really a requirement, for that option, whenever you fill out the application, it's going to ask you, do you want to include a test score? You'll choose yes or no. And then if you do choose to include a test score, you can send us as many as you like because we also do super score. So other than those required items, we also do have some recommended items you can submit as well. These are things that can let us know a little bit more about you, not just inside the classroom, but also outside of the classroom. Baylor does have a holistic review process when it comes to our applications. We don't have a top 10% rule or anything like that. So the more information we have on a student, the better evaluation we can make. So you can submit your resume, which is of course a listing of your achievements and student organizations, volunteer work, and things like that. So that can be uploaded straight through Go Baylor. We also have the option to submit what is called a Zemi profile. So Zemi is a little bit newer. This is basically a platform where you can submit photos and videos and add a creative element to your overall application. So you could do either or. You could submit a Zemi or you could submit a resume, whichever one you feel is more convenient for you. And then the letters of recommendation, these can be from anybody that is not a family member. So students will typically send 2 to 3 letters. They can be sent in via email or as hard copies, or through Go Baylor. You'll also have the option to input email addresses, and that'll automatically request a letter from whomever you're wanting to write you a letter. And we recommend for at least one to be from an academic source, so a teacher or a counselor or somebody of that nature. And then the short answer response is a small 3 to 4 sentence paragraph about what you're looking for in a college. So that can really help us see why you're applying to Baylor and why you'd be a good fit. And my advice as a counselor is that anytime you see something that says recommended or optional or suggested on a college application, I would go ahead and just submit it just to show that you're going sort of above and beyond and to really help enhance your overall application. Okay, so in terms of our deadlines, Baylor has two main deadlines that you can choose to meet. We have November 1st, and then we also have February 1st. So I would highly recommend trying to meet the November 1st deadline if you can. If you think Baylor is one of your top choices or even like your number one choice, meeting that first wave or that first deadline is going to be really helpful because this is when we're going to receive the majority of our freshman applications, and it's also when we're going to admit roughly 2/3 of our incoming class. So it's super important to be part of that first wave. And when you meet that November 1st deadline, you have two choices for how you can apply. So we have early action and we have early decision one. So basically, the biggest difference between the two is that early decision is binding and early action is not. So the early decision option, this is very similar to what several other colleges have listed as first priority or early priority. There's all sorts of different names for it, but at Baylor, it's early decision. And this one does come with a commitment. So students who are accepted that have applied under the early decision plan are agreeing to attend Baylor and enroll if they are accepted. So that does involve an early decision agreement that the students, their parents, and their high school counselor all sign off on so that everybody knows that they're applying to Baylor with that early decision commitment. We also have the early action option, which is non-binding. So students can choose to meet that November 1st deadline, still apply early, but have no commitment whatsoever. So students would still get to have everything done. And early action applicants can expect to have their decision back in January. And that's going to really help with giving you more time to make your final college decision, because if you are accepted and you find out in January, that's going to give you that whole spring semester to get your ducks in a row and just make sure that you're totally confident in your final college decision. So the more time you have to do that, the smoother the process typically goes. And then for our February 1st deadline, we'll also be offering a second round of early decision, and we're going to call it early decision 2. So any students that wanted to apply that way but missed the first deadline can still have the chance to do so by applying by February 1st and electing early decision 2. And then we'll also have a regular decision. So this, of course, has no commitment as well. And these students would apply by February 1st and hear back about their decision by April. So as you can see, that is quite a big difference in the timeline, which is another reason you definitely want to get everything in early so you can hear back about your decision earlier than that. In terms of financial aid, Baylor students, about 92% of Baylor students do receive financial aid and scholarships from the university. So although we are private, so it is pricier, we do definitely try to make sure that we have as much funding available as possible when it comes to the need-based aid as well as academic scholarships. And our main scholarship website is baylor.edu/SFS. So that's short for Student Financial Services. And this is where you can kind of see the main hub for all things scholarship financial aid. For this year, all students are going to be automatically reviewed for academic scholarships whenever you submit your Baylor application, so you won't have to apply for those specifically. And those are going to be based on your academic profile, so it's going to be based on your high school transcript. And then if you choose to submit a test score, we'll also review that as well. We're also going to be having a scholarship programs application that you can submit. So throughout the year, we're going to have various scholarship events. And if you're interested in any of those events, those can definitely help with earning some extra scholarship money. We'll have one unified scholarship application for that you can start working on once it opens on September 1st. And that will be accessible through your Go Baylor account. So again, that Go Baylor account really is key to making sure you have everything that you need just in one place, and you have all the resources that you might need in terms of scholarships and things like that. This is also where you can find the contact information for our financial aid office. So if you ever have questions about the financial side of things, or if you need help with the financial aid process, they're always willing to help students, especially with the FAFSA and things like that. So speaking of the FAFSA, Baylor has two different financial aid applications that you can submit. So the FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. And the good thing about the whenever you start working on the application, you can actually list more than one college. So you want to make sure that you're sending the FAFSA off to all the schools that you're applying to, so that way we can all get your information and all process you for need-based aid. And then we also have the CSS profile. Now this is a little bit newer. We started offering it a couple of years ago, and this is how you're going to apply for Baylor need-based scholarships. And the good thing to remember about both the FAFSA and the CSS profile is that they both open on October 1st. So they're not open just yet, but starting on October 1st, you can start working on them and getting these applications submitted. And for Baylor, our priority deadline for financial aid is November 1st. So I would highly recommend meeting the priority deadline when it comes to financial aid for two reasons. First reason is that all the students that have their financial aid information completed and submitted by November 1st can expect to get their finalized financial aid package back in early spring, so around January, February. That package is going to be super important because it's going to outline everything that you would be receiving from Baylor, which is going to have a big impact on your overall college decision. And then the second reason is that there's much more funding available at the beginning of the year versus the end of the year. So it's a good idea to just have everything submitted and out of the way so that you're not having to worry about doing all of this in April or May when there's not as much funding left over. So it's definitely a good incentive. November 1st, of course, is also the first deadline for Baylor admissions. So I always say if there's one thing you want to remember from this, just remember that November 1st is super important with Baylor because that is our priority deadline for financial aid as well as our first deadline for the application. So this is my contact information. I'll also put it in the chat so that way if anybody has questions or is interested in Baylor, you can reach out to me directly. I do supervise the North Houston territory, so I'm more than happy to help you with the process, especially as we get deeper into the fall. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Okay, so does anybody have any questions so far? You can type it out in the Q&A or in the chat, and I can answer for you. Yeah, so we got a question about the scholarships of financial aid for Baylor. So Baylor does offer scholarships through our academic scholarships as well as the scholarship events that we have. So all of the students that apply to Baylor will automatically be reviewed for the merit-based scholarships, and that's going to be based on your academic profile. So it's going to be based on your high school transcript, and then if you choose to include a test score, like for ACT and SAT, we'll also review that. And if you are accepted to Baylor and you're eligible for a scholarship, you'll be accepted with that scholarship amount. And that's not including the need-based aid. So for the financial aid aspect, you definitely want to prioritize completing your FAFSA and your CSS profile and getting that submitted by the priority deadline, because that's how you're going to apply for the need-based financial aid. And that's super important if you know that that's going to play a huge role in your overall college decision. So you definitely want to have that completed earlier and prioritized. And then we'll also have several scholarship events throughout the year. So that's something that you can apply for starting September 1st through that Go Baylor account that we talked about. So if you're interested in those events, you want to fill out that application and make sure that you're checking Go Baylor so that way you're not missing anything important. So we also do have other scholarships that you can earn as a student at Baylor. So typically the longer you're at Baylor, the more scholarship opportunities become available through your academic department or through certain student organizations. So there's definitely other avenues of adding more to your overall scholarship amount as well. So, and then for the COVID-19 situation, so basically what we're doing, so I know that we've definitely have a lot of things that we are changing for the fall 2020 semester. We are offering a good portion of our classes in an online format. So we're going to have a mix of in-person, online, and hybrid. Hybrid meaning that you have a couple of days out of the week that you meet in person, and then the rest of it would be online. So we're really trying to accommodate everybody's concerns when it comes to the COVID-19 situation and keeping students safe. So we do also have tent classrooms being built around campus. They are air-conditioned tents that do have flooring as an effort to try to spread students out more. So that's going to be a really cool, innovative idea. And then we are also upping our sanitization measures whenever it comes to sanitizing the buildings on campus and common areas and things like that. So that's all been implemented. We'll also have several hand sanitizer stations and things like that around campus. And we are also requiring students to wear masks. So we're really trying to enforce the social distance measures and everything that's been suggested by the CDC, while also allowing students to really enjoy the Baylor experience, but also making sure that we're keeping their health and safety in mind, and that that is our priority whenever it comes to starting our classes. So as it kind of goes for the fall 2021. Of course, that's all going to depend on the situation. As we all know by now, that's seeming to, change literally on a day-by-day basis, but we're definitely adjusting accordingly to the current situation, and we'll continue to do that for the following semesters as well. So does that answer your question? Okay, awesome. Are there any other questions I can answer for y'all? I know that was a lot of information. You're welcome.
And also, her information is also in the chat. So if you have any additional questions that you can think of, I mean, we still have a little time. So, guys, I know, especially this is your first, college, learning about college. It is a lot of information. However, throughout the year, as you learn more about the process, you may have questions. And the one thing about these are reps that work with our area. So in other words, they're the most reliable source, instead of you trying to just contact admissions in general, this is a specific person that you can talk to. So, and that's perfect because they can address your question directly. So go ahead, make sure you write their information down. So again, if you can think of anything in the future, you can ask. Let's see, do we have another question? What was it called? CC for College Board? Oh, that's CCS? Is that?
Oh, yes. Okay, yes, the CCS profile. Thank you. So that is a way for you to apply for Baylor need-based scholarships. So whenever it comes to scholarships, there are some that are academic or merit-based. So that's going to be based off of like your academic profile, your transcript, and things like that. And then there's also some that are need-based. So the CSS profile is a way for you to apply for those need-based scholarships, and those are funded by Baylor. So again, that is a newer application for us. We only started offering that a couple of years ago. So I tell students, take advantage of that because that's just doubling up your chances of being able to earn extra money for school. So the FAFSA and the CSS profile are both super important. I would think of them as, two peas in a pod because they both open on October 1st. So you'll be able to access them and start filling them out. And then they both have the priority deadlines of November 1st. So if financial aid is something that you know is going to be important to you, definitely prioritize those applications, have those in mind as we get into the fall to have those done by November 1st. And it's also good because you want to hear the results of that, earlier. So students that have those submitted can expect their packages to be completed in early spring, so usually around January or February, which is a great way for you to see, okay, well, if I go to Baylor, this is how much I'll be receiving, and that does, for a lot of students, make a huge impact on your overall choice. So again, that's the CSS profile, and you'll be able to access that through the College Board website. And then, of course, we're also going to have several, emails that get sent out for students to remind you, like, hey, if you're interested in financial aid, you want to make sure to fill these out. This is where you can access it for both the FAFSA and the CSS profile.
Well, those are some great questions. And thank you so much, ladies, for joining us for our first webinar, in a sense.
Yeah.
If there are no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Again, participants, if you had any additional questions, just look through this. If you can scroll through the chat, when you click on chat, you'll see their contact information is listed there. All right. Well, I'm going to close this out. Thank you so much, Cassie and Danielle, again, for participating. Thank you, students. Bye-bye.
Yes. Thank you guys. Bye.